everybody, it's 12 noon East Coast time. Where would you rather be than right here, right now? Eating lunch in the East Coast, second cup of coffee out there in the Great Pacific. Right, Carolyn? Second cup of coffee?
Maybe.
See,
maybe more than that.
Very good. Hey, so glad to have you here. 174th week of the Town Hall Academy. And boy, we just have so damn much fun here. And I decided to bring a panel of great friends to talk about, I think, one of the most important things that are going on in all of our minds regarding maybe the new normal. And, you know, every time I talk about the new normal, everyone else talks about it. So what can we change it to? Adapt or die. Great idea. It's the new normal. Well, we're here, got a great panel. I'll introduce them in a minute. But first, I've got a great sponsor for this show. I just want to let you know. And it's the first time, I think, on the Town Hall Academy, Carolyn, that I've had you here. And it wasn't by purposeful design, like you can sponsor my show, but you can never come on it. It was never part of the drill, but glad to have you here. Now, here's a question. Do you know what is as easy as 1, 2, 3? Well, ShopWare's shop management system allows customers to review, approve, and pay for results all in one place. Keep your staff and your customers safe while maintaining profits and keeping your customers extremely happy. Learn more at getshopware.com, getshopware.com. I hear there's going to be a new URL coming one day, and we'll see about that. That may be a whole lot of fun. With me is Carolyn Coquillette, as I have just mentioned, from Luscious Garage and the CEO of ShopWare. Good to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me, Carm. Thanks for putting on great content every single week. It's awesome to be a part of it.
Boy, I'll tell you. Wait till you hear what I have coming up in about 5 weeks. A cooking show, my first ever cooking show, a barbecue show for shop owners, and as they cook. I am so excited. I got off the phone today with a friend of mine that I've known years ago who is going to actually cook in his backyard. I can't wait to do it. Anyway, Sheri Hamilton is also here with us, the Executive Director of MWACA, the Midwest Auto Care Alliance.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And as we were talking off camera before we started, Vision was the last big, of course, Vision, right? It's the premier event. And she held it, and then the world locked down.
Whew. We were sweating that out, and I should have gone and bought lottery tickets afterwards.
Yes, you should
We
have.
were lucky. So
what an
fortunate.
Incredible event this past year. And of course, I think you're going to be perfect for next year. I don't think you'll have a problem holding that.
Great. We're excited.
Chris Cloutier is with us. Golden Rule Auto Care, Dallas, Texas, and the CEO of AutoTex.me. Always a great contributor.
Thanks, Carm, for having me. Love being on these panels.
You know, always. And Scott Brown, Connie and Dix, CEO of Diagnostic Network, and was just on one of my new shows, aftermarketweekly.com, this past week, and we had a tour of your place. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, great to be here. This is my third interweb live appearance this week. This week,
I know.
This is very unusual. Thank you for having me.
You and Carolyn were on one yesterday, am I right?
Yep. Yeah, now, we knocked one out of the park.
Did you do that presentation that you did at ASA Colorado?
It was
similar.
It was similar to it. Yeah.
Great event. And then you and I, Carolyn and Scott and Carolyn did a show that we recorded, and it's out there on my site. It's called Customers Need to Know How We Make Our Sausage. And that was a really good show. And it's all about communicating. So thank you all for being here. We got to jump into this thing, adapt or die. And I want to give the first question to Sheri. This whole no contact thing, will we ever see customers again walking into our shop, Sheri?
Well, I think it's going to be different. It totally depends on your customer, and you have to prepare yourself to be to serve each customer. Some customers won't want to come in and have any contact, and others are going to be business as usual. So you're going to have to find a way to really connect with the customers that don't come in. It's you're going to have to be innovative and make sure that your communication and your relationship styles come through to connect with them.
Perfect. She said the word innovation, Carolyn. Wow. We got to look outside the industry. For some of our really progressive people, they have done that, and they've said, ooh, I like that. Important to be open-minded and look outside the industry, Carolyn?
Yeah, I was thinking about the concept of adapt or die, which is sounds pretty dire, but obviously it's a tenet of evolution. And what's interesting about evolution is it's a combination of the fact that, we're always changing, and essentially we can't resist that need to change. Essentially, change is natural. Change is something that we have to embrace. But also everybody else is too, right? We see the cars changing. We see our competitors changing. Obviously, the internet has ushered in a bunch of additional challenges to our business. And so essentially, it's not only our ambition to compete, it's up to us to survive. We have to compete to survive and continue to change and adapt. So acknowledging that there are other industry trends or other trends happening outside of our industry that we need to be aware of and we need to consider and adopt on our own terms in order to continue to compete.
Could you possibly just give us a couple of thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, one of the themes that Scott and I have been harping on is the idea that you really need to bring the mysteries of the car forward and in front of your customer. So we're often misunderstood, and we're considered part of the problem of having a car, and when the car has problems, when in fact we're part of the solution. And so being able to really present the details of the car to the customer in a digital way so that they can consume it in a way that's non-pressured and more clear to them, really helps them appreciate the hard work that we're doing and say yes.
I did a show probably 5 weeks ago at Town Hall Academy, and I had a bunch of coaches on, and Chris Cotton, I got to give him always the credit for this, but as we were talking about everything that mattered, it was DVI, and if it was texting, and if it was cloud-based SMS systems and all of this, and business coaches and networking and associations and business advisors and leadership skills and technology, embrace technology. He said, proof of concept, Carm. And it just blew me away, because we've been talking about this ad nauseum for a long, long time. And it took something as devastating as a pandemic to prove that we weren't getting along fast enough and quick enough. And you said the word change. And I have to say that there's a whole lot of people out there that don't want to embrace change. Mm-hmm. Team, what do you say?
I would agree, Carm. I think that change is something that we all resist. It's funny, there's a Rush song that says, you can choose, and if you choose not to choose, then you've still made a choice. Well, you're constantly in change, and you're constantly making choices on whether you're going to change or not. But your body's always evolving. Your mind's always evolving. Your thoughts are always evolving. It's just funny, we set limitations on ourselves to say, I'm going to change for that, but I'm not going to change for that. I'll give Facebook as a perfect example. 5, 6, 8 years ago, how many people said, I'm not going to be on Facebook? No, I would never be on social media. Now it's 90% of the population that's our age that's on Facebook. Everybody else is on TikTok now. And I can't tell you how many people said, I'm not going to get on TikTok and make stupid short videos. And then next week I see, so-and-so's mom like, hey, I'm doing the TikTok dance. So it's us setting limitations on where we want our change to be. I've learned this as a leader. I have to be careful about saying never. I'm never going to do that, because it always seems like a year later I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, and I get pointed out a lot of times from my team and counterparts, everybody else, when they say, really, Chris, you said you were never going to do that. Well, that was my fault. I'm going to change. We're going to adapt, and we're going to change as life leads us, and we need to embrace it.
Embracing technology, exactly right. Leaders say interesting. Leaders sit on their hands. Leaders ask the questions that sometimes they know the answer to, but they're asking their people, about stuff, and they're learning from it. And so that the next time they get into a boardroom and they get asked the question about how we can do business with the digital world, and our millennials and soon to be Gen Zs, they've got to know.
Carm, I just got done reading this book, and it's a John Maxwell book, and it's a book about leaders asking questions. These questions are very important in leadership. But one of the things he said is most leaders, 95% of the decisions we make, a high schooler can make those decisions for us. It's the 5%. that separates us from being a great leader and a mediocre leader. It's the 5% of decisions that we have to make that are hard. These last 2 months, we've all been forced to make 5% decisions. A lot of the choices and decisions we've made were not what a high school can make those decisions. A lot of these are no-brainer. I'm going to go to DVI, texting, all the technologies out there right now. You should be looking at that now 100%. If you haven't been looking at it before, you should adopt it right now. Those are, those are high schooler decisions. It's no brainer. Go adopt a DVI, go get digital. Everybody on this panel, except for Sheri, she's a very digital person. She's a Zoho expert. Caroline, Scott, my shops, we're all very digitally advanced. We are. That's a no brainer. It's these harder decisions we should free our minds up for.
Am I crazy to bring on these digital experts often and talk about this often, and still, Scott, Carolyn, Chris, the adoption rate is still so small? Should we just stop talking about this and just say,
No, not at all. The thing is that we are always, or we should always be in a continuous loop of upgrade, right? You should always be reviewing what you're doing. And really, as I was reflecting over the last month or so, I finally realized that, wow, this has really kind of freed up some bandwidth for us to really stop and start analyzing what in the hell are we actually doing. And it gives you a point to actually focus. I mean, when we're going flat out 100%, you don't have a lot of time to really start thinking about your processes and how am I going to tweak and refine. So we should always be in that state. And, this slowdown should actually, prompt us to say, hey, what else can I do? There's been so much training that's now been offered. I know Sheri mentioned that. The training world has changed. I mean, the way that they're delivering content is going to change our expectations as a consumer of that content. And, so it's always a continuous loop that I've always been in. I've always tried to analyze, what am I doing? In our early days, on the digital side, I tried to get people to use digital, and I was told that computers don't belong in a shop. So look at where we're at today. So it's an interesting time.
Thank you for mentioning that. Sheri, everyone here on the panel knows, everyone in the industry knows, we have had more webinars, more Zoom meetings. And I interviewed a guy, Dave Martin, the other day, and he after we turned off the recorder, he goes, I've had it up to here. I can't be on another one. Give me a meeting where I can actually see people.
Right.
And hug some people. I'm a hugger, And so, Sheri, my question to you is, information, the training is never going to go away, and I think it's going to be highlighted more than ever. And my question is, online versus leader-led, be it conferences. And what I'm worried about, very, very worried about, in all the Zoom meetings and all the online training, is knowledge transfer and accountability. Did I learn something?
Yes. We have to understand that people have different learning styles. And so some may do well within a webinar for an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. Some take that personal engagement. They need that interaction of others and of the instructor. And so you really have to know what your learning style is, and you have to know what your employees' learning style is.
How do we hold them accountable for the knowledge that they came and got? I mean, learning management systems, LMSs, are they going to be on the front and the back end of these seminars now?
Yes, I think that has brought, all of this has brought that technology forward. But when you have employees that are taking that training, you have to make sure you adapt your shop policies to know whether or not they've consumed that training. With some of these webinars that are in the evening now, if you're paying for it as a shop, you want to know whether or not those people whether your employees have taken the training, whether they've engaged, whether they've learned anything. And so you need to take a look at that. And how do you set up, for them to report out? Do you do a monthly or a weekly, for attending these webinars, and give highlights of the training, and have some type of expectation for that employee?
Carm, I'd like to add a little bit more to that, because one thing that going to these conferences and going to in-person class, there is an inertia that is generated, and it helps you learn because you're learning from your colleagues that are sitting next to you. You've got those questions that somebody asked that you were afraid to ask, and now you've had your sense put at ease somewhat, that that guy's at the same level as I am, and he's asking the same question. So it encourages additional training. But I think that, we're in this period now where we're beginning to adapt, and it's going to be an eclectic group of, pieces of learning. I'm working with another company right now that's onto some pretty interesting things as far as training goes, and it's more micro learning. And as I look back, that's kind of what I've been doing all along. Anybody that's been networking with other groups or online, you're always micro learning. You're learning about some new little thing or some new little task. But on the accountability side, this system that these guys are running, it has a way to actually gauge the knowledge that attendee has, and it starts to feed him the content that he needs to get up to speed. So it gives you some measurability. I'm really excited about what they're doing. I don't want to leave an ad for them, but I think that they're onto something, and this is definitely revolutionary. So it's pretty cool to see what people are doing as far as
algorithmic artificial intelligence stuff.
Yeah,
feedback.
it starts to ask you questions, and it gauges what your knowledge is on a particular subject. And if you start getting things wrong, it starts feeding you more content, but it gives you the answer. After you've answered it wrong, it gives you the explanation. So you go, oh, now I understand how that works.
Got it.
Pretty simple.
Got it. Carolyn, you told me you saw a survey, 60% plan to retire or close their shop by this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure COVID stopped them in their tracks. What are you thinking about as it comes to, ShopWare and your clients?
Yeah, we've been in touch with everybody, and that's been really awesome to see how everybody's doing, and what an incredibly inspiring industry, and the essential aspect of our business. And so it's just, we're incredibly resilient people, and I think there's always that when we're faced with the opportunity, the challenge, if you will, to change. We're being confronted about having to do something. The first thing we often think is like, oh no, what's going to happen? It's uncertain, right? You're afraid. And then as you start to move and you start to act, you realize, I can do this. I'm going to get through this. We're going to be okay. And we're going to be better off. Certainly when you look at trends for consumers, trends for the way you can operate your shop, not only are there a lot of pathways to be able to operate your shop safely, but it's really reminding customers what's important. Having safe, reliable transportation is a paramount, a priority for them right now. And so people are bringing their cars in, and people are spending money on their cars to make sure that they're reliable, and then obviously they can get out of their homes and get on the road somewhere is something that people are really excited about. So certainly what we hear from folks running their businesses is that they've actually been busy and that tickets are up. And so that is a really good sign. And I think in a lot of ways, this challenge, this period has reminded us what's important. And it's really, compelling us to make change, which is what's so important, and, obviously the topic of this panel. So I see it as a really great opportunity for our business, and again, recenter sort of the message about, the essential nature of our business.
You're also in touch with your customers and the industry. Every one of you are not just, business owners, but you're in touch. Anything that you're hearing that has stopped shop owners in their tracks, and they're shuttering and they can't get out of their own way?
That's a big matzo ball there, huh?
Yeah. It's a big tough question, and maybe it goes to Sheri. You're very close to your customer base. You have webinars. You're keeping them in touch. You're building networking. What's their biggest concerns?
Their biggest concerns have been obviously getting through all of the PPP and the employees and how to keep them busy. But now they're turning from that. They're focused on business. Business is coming in, and they're having to get more efficient. They're having to get more engaged, and they're having to use skills that maybe a lot of shop owners haven't had to having used at once, where you've got your marketing skills going on, you've got your business and your efficiency skills going on, and everything matters to keep it a fine-tuned machine. And I think that's a really big part. And honestly, shop owners and people in the industry, they're missing community. They're missing their people. And I think that inspires them. And I think that helps get them going and knowing that they're not in it alone. And so I think our online platforms, the online Facebook groups have really helped. I couldn't imagine this group this industry going without having that. Imagine going through this 5 years ago when we all weren't so connected. It would have been really challenging.
I'm going to add to that. So your question is, it's a leadership question. And I like this John Maxwell quote. I'm going to throw this out there too. A man or a woman who thinks they're a leader and has nobody following is just taking a walk. So look at the last 2 months. What were you doing? Because we've probably faced one of the biggest crises we're ever going to face in our lifetime, probably as a global perspective. You're going to have other issues in your shop that will be huge. But as a global perspective, this is we were all staring just horrible things in the face. I mean, we saw sales drop to 10 to 15%. And we were looking at our people out in our bays going, can we take care of them? We're looking at our software company people, the software, and we're saying, wow, can we take care of our people? What are we going to do? So we had to make a lot of choices and a lot of adjustments to make things happen. And thank God we were seen as essential. So how did you act as a leader in these last couple months? How did you reflect? How were you scared? Were you burying your head in the sand while this was all going on and not leading your troops? Or did you step up and say, hey, I'm going to figure it out? You know what? In Texas, nobody told us that we had to wear face masks. Nobody told us we had to wear gloves. Nobody told us we had to disinfect cars. Nobody told us we had to disinfect keys. Nobody told us we had to pick up and drop off cars. Nobody set down any expectations. You know what they told us? You're essential. What does that mean? It means you can operate. We had to figure it all out, and us as leaders had to figure out what essential meant. Back to Sheri's point at the beginning, we had to figure out what our customers felt comfortable with. And we had to then engage our teams and figure out what our teams felt comfortable with to bring them along so we could potentially show them, hopefully we're successful. So I think if anything, Carm, this has hopefully strengthened a lot of us. And probably the ones that were weak already, unfortunately, those have probably folded. And they've probably, this didn't help them. And maybe some that were on the verge of weakness, maybe they found strength in this and they said, hey, wow, I really can do this. Well, okay, maybe these other things that are going on in my shop aren't a big of a deal as the whole government telling you your business is shut down. It doesn't get much bigger than that. EPA can come shut you down. Wage and hour can shut you down. Sales tax can shut you down. OSHA can come shut you down. You know, the list of requirements that the government puts on us is a book that's so big, that's always changing. We wouldn't even know where it ends. As soon as we're done reading it, it would change and we'd have to continue reading it. Think about all the things business owners have to do. But then you have the government saying, hey, guess what? You're essential. Everybody else has to close their doors. We don't know if customers are going to come through or not. That was huge.
I want to hold your thought right there, and I want to give a shout out again to ShopWare. You know, contactless service is key to keeping your bays full while remaining 6 feet apart, social distancing. ShopWare's completely digital workflow will wow your customers and keep profits up. Tara Topol from Topol Service Center. I know Tara. She commented recently, thank God for this amazing cloud-based software during this difficult time. She can't imagine life without it right now. Thanks, Carolyn and Team ShopWare. Book a demo at getshopware.com. We were given, Scott, go ahead, and then I have a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back on the shop owners, right? Stopping the shop owners, or what did the shop owners do? I think, and I'm included, I think a lot of us have difficulty sometimes getting creative, because you've got to get creative to do the adaptation, right? To adopt or what have you. And you need to really look at everything. It's kind of like the Apollo 13 thing, right? When all the engineers threw everything on the table, they left it all on the table. They said, hey, how can we make that work? That's really how we have to think to adapt. And I'll give you an example. You know, we, in this town here, we have a lot of retirement communities. There's like 4 of them that are pretty large, and we have quite a few customers there. And the first thing we did is we started contacting them to see if we could get in front of their community. And they all told us, nope, we're all locked down. You can't come on property or what have you. Well, we started getting requests from our clients at those communities to come and pick up their car, because we wanted to let them know, hey, we will come pick their car up. We will do everything contactless. Just leave the keys out there. We'll just come get the car. We're leaving cars, our loaner cars, we're leaving them on the property, but we're not letting them use them. We put signs in the car saying COVID-19 support vehicle, Connie and Dick's. Don't tow it, call us. So we're leaving, some branding around that, and people love it. We're picking the car up, we're taking care of them. And then we're also filling their gas tank when we return that car to them, because when it comes time for them to use the car, they don't have to go to the gas station now. So there's a lot of stuff that you can start to look at and start looking at every single process that you do every day and see what you can do to improve that. So that's the end of my rant.
I was thinking about that, again, that concept of, how do you adapt or how does evolution work? And it's not deliberate, right? It's by accident and it's incremental. Of course, Chris and Scott, you guys both, make software. Sheri, you're creating, amazing events. And the way that you figure out the best way isn't the waterfall method, right? It's not sitting back and envisioning a whole thing. It's, agile. It's iterative. You start with an idea, you put it into practice, you see if it works or not. And if it works, then you keep it. If it doesn't, you throw it away and you try something else. And it's the same thing with needing to adapt your business, right? You say, okay, this isn't working very well. What can I change? Let me see if that's better. If it's better, great. If it isn't, try something else. I also love to think about, the culture of being a shop owner, and that we're so stubborn and we're so kind of audacious. We have this audacity. And the reason is that you have to be audacious to think that you can fix a car and make money doing it. It's incredibly hard to fix cars and make money doing it. Getting that customer's buy-in and getting them to be happy after the repair, right? Because nobody wants to pay to get their car fixed. That's not a welcome expense. And so being able to pull that off is, there's an inherent culture, an inherent personality of someone who raises their hand and says, yes, I want to run towards that fire. And so that's who we are as people. That's who we are as an industry. And that's what allows us to continue to survive and frankly thrive through this period.
I want to interject. No, you're an entrepreneur, Caroline. And entrepreneurs
We all
like to
are.
run towards
We all
the
are.
fire, right? So business owners sometimes are entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs sometimes are business owners. I think on this panel, we've got a lot of entrepreneurs. That's why I like this panel a lot. And I'm not saying anything about business owners. We're business owners too, but entrepreneurs, we love the fire.
When you all
Tell us there's a 1% chance, and I'll show you somebody who could succeed.
Got it. When you all said yes, you'd come on this panel, I just had a wonderful day when you all agreed to come on, because I know the collective brain power that sits here. Team, were we done a favor as an industry that we were essential, and the opportunity that we had to be open? We look back now and said we had some extra time on our hands. We reinvented, we learned, we listened, we networked. Will we come out of this as an industry stronger?
I think that going to your first point there, being essential business, I mean, it's really been remarkable for our mental state, because we're coming to work every day. We're at, if we don't have any cars in the bays, we're doing something, right? We're getting out, we're doing something, we're working with some tools, we're cleaning up our service bays or what have you. But I can't imagine what it's like for a lot of people that don't have that opportunity to leave and go to work. That regular routine, we kind of live by that, right? It helps you with your mental well-being and what have you. So being an essential worker has been pretty honorable. But what it's going to change us all. I don't think any of us here can actually predict exactly what's going to happen on the other side of this, or when the other side of this is actually going to happen. So it's tough, but we've got to keep our head above board and look for every opportunity we can to thrive and survive.
What a perfect lead in to ask Sheri, Vision 2021. And I don't want to put you on the spot. I just don't. But I can't imagine you not thinking what it would look like, how different it would be if we don't have a vaccine, or there's not some major changes in the next 9 months. I'm not sure exact number. Can you just tell us what's going through your head about that?
Yes, there will become a lot of changes to the meetings industry. And no matter how far, whether we get a vaccine, where it goes, there's going to be a change. When you look at the classrooms and you've had full classrooms, you now look at how schools are going back and they have 6-foot distancing and all of the changes they're making. It depends on where an event is being held, could also depend on what restrictions they place on it. But you could have much smaller classrooms. You could have where you go into a general session or something and it's theater seating. You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have some level of social distancing. That affects everything from your refreshment breaks to how your food service comes. You may not, buffets, as you know, with restaurants, buffets are a no-go. That's going to become the same within the meetings industry. And your check-in method will be much different. How you check in and get your badges, and there's probably going to be health screening, and that becomes a big challenge on its own. We really don't know. We just have to become very, very quick to change depending upon what comes upon our industry to make all these things happen. But I think it's important that we get back and we meet face to face and we get that community. People thrive on that. And I'm very glad that we got Vision off this year, especially going into this, because I think everyone who was at Vision needed that last boost of motivation and energy and training before we walked into this.
I think it did sustain us for a little bit here. And the most important networking piece of Vision is the bar. And I can't imagine that going away.
Yeah. I just had a marketing idea there for you, Sheri. I don't know if you guys remember if you go into Apex and you walk through the Venetian, or you see some of those vendors that have the face masks that have the digital messaging.
Yeah,
so you could do some digital messaging. You could have their class list on one side and maybe some other branding. Carolyn, you can have your ad over here. Hey.
Oh, there you go. I already have my first sponsor.
All right.
Oh boy. She always asks for the order, always.
Right.
So how is business going to be different, team? How are shop owners going to do business differently? Even as we get back open and people have some money to spend, and as we try to practice the social distancing and mask wearing, how's business, the shop's going to be different?
I want to jump in here. I think that this has kind of progressed us to where we should be anyways. Auto repair has always been a little bit behind when it comes to technology and adoption of technology. So this has certainly forced an uptick in adoption. And I want to put in here, Carm, because it was said earlier, and I think it was a valid point, that look, just because you get a DVI right now and you text message right now, which you should, doesn't mean you stop there, right? We talked about change. We talked about adoption. I think absolutely all of us owe it within ourselves. As you're reading the Wall Street Journal or whatever, about current news and times, you need to be up on TechCrunch. You need to be looking at the future and what's coming down the pipe, right? 3D printing. It's reading about the 2020 Shelby. It's going to have 2 parts on the brake components that are printed. Okay, well, that's amazing that now parts stores or manufacturers starting to print their own parts. How's that going to change? Now look at China. Look at the supply chain. Look at the fact that we're the sentiment towards them. So is that going to push 3D printing up? I know about a guy who owns 3D printers himself. Voice technologies. That's another thing that I think we need to start focusing on, because touching things, for one, it's gross now. touching things is going to go. So we thought kiosks were going to be great, but nah, I don't want to touch something after Sheri touched something because she looks like she didn't wash her hands after she went. I'm just kidding, Sheri. Totally kidding. I know you wash your hands after the bathroom. I'm just saying, right? You're going to have that. So you have stores now that are now allowing people, and this has been going on for a while, to check out on their phone. So let me scan things on my phone and let me pay for it and let me just walk out because I don't have to go to a place where I scan it. I've got everything I need here. Mm-hmm. And we're doing that with text to pay. Mm-hmm. But voice is going to be something that once again, how can I leverage voice? Alexa skills. Everybody down with Alexa skills? Alexa skills, I can go load apps onto Alexa. I can build skills. I mean, Amazon's made it pretty easy to start building apps for Alexa, and there's a whole bunch of them out there, and they do a lot of them do not a whole lot of anything. But how is that going to change, once again, the way your consumer interacts with you? I always said this, I've been in computers for pretty much my whole life since I was born. So like 20 years, because I'm like 25, I'm just kidding. I've been in it for a lot longer than that when I was a kid. And I always thought this is weird. Typing is weird. And this mouse is the worst thing. If you've ever tried to teach a 30, 40-year-old person how to use this thing, it is incredibly difficult because they're like, I don't understand. This, you understand. And if you look at Alexa and you look at all these things that have gone with a voice and how much that technology from Dragon technology to now has improved, God, these are just things that are going to ever increase. And so your mind can't stop. I think it was Scott who said it. Your mind can't stop it. Hey, I've got a DBI. I'm using ShopWare now. I'm good. No, sorry. You need to continuously look at what's coming. And Scott and Caroline and Sheri, we're going to continuously look at what's coming. Zoom meetings for my team, Carm, we were already Zooming. My software team's been remote from day one. I've never had an office. So they're like, how did it affect you? I'm like, didn't. We're still doing the way we've done things always. Now it's just forcing people into this new paradigm thing. So my point here is read TechCrunch, read things that are coming, look at these technology. If you're afraid of them, go buy an Alexa and go program your own little Alexa skill to figure it out, or go download some. Just get to learn to understand. That's what you need to do. Your mind needs to be on this set of change. Technology is going to change, and I need to figure out what I can adopt, when I can adopt it, but at least understand it.
I love where he's going with this whole thing. And by the way, Scott, one second. And I recall Dr. Spock being on the bridge of the Enterprise, walking over to that console saying, hey, Google. Hey, Alexa. Actually, he said computer. And I think they had it all right 50 years ago.
Yeah, I think going back to talking about our core business, right? The repair industry, or the aftermarket repair industry. I think there's just a few basic things that if we all start looking at, I think it should paint an interesting forecast for us. If you look at new car sales, what has happened to new car sales? Completely tanked. Well, a lot of that is driven by the fact that people have lost their jobs, or their income has basically been reduced. Do you think that they're going to buy a new car in the next 3 to 6 months or the next year? Probably not. Probably going to want to hold on to their old iron and keep it going. And that's where we come in, right? This is where we can continue to capitalize on that, right? We want to help our customers go 200, 300,000 miles. And that's been our motto all the time. We tell people how to maintain their car so it can be an actual return on investment, rather than recycling that car every 6 years, which is insane. Mm-hmm. So if you start looking at that, and then also pay attention to what some of these big manufacturers are doing as far as their advertising goes. They basically, when they release an ad, they're laying all their cards out on the table. So if you pay attention, you can probably pick up a couple of ideas on how you might want to communicate, or brand yourself, or advertise, or what have you. So a lot of cool stuff happening out there. Again, like Chris says, you've got to stay in that continuous loop cycle, or else you're not going to survive, right?
I mean, what people are looking for right now is solutions. So Carm, your question is like, what do we need to do as businesses to respond? And what the driving public and our customers are asking for, what they need generally, not just on their cars, but generally what they want to know is like, they're going to be okay, right? They need solutions to the problem. And there's a big problem that they're dealing with. There's obviously residual problems in terms of, job losses and, financial pinch and having your kids at home and all this crazy other stuff that people are trying to juggle. But like, generally speaking, we're under a lot of stress. There's a lot of uncertainty. And so as a business, being able to say, we've got a solution for you. We're going to be able to, first of all, provide solutions on your car. So we're going to show you how we can fix your car, and then you're going to have safe, reliable transportation to get you around, which obviously people are desperate to get out of their houses, and whatever conduct, their essential services and the stuff that they need to get done, stay safe. But also being able to say, like, we have a strategy to how to, sanitize the car. This is how we're going to conduct our business with you. This is where you need to stand when you're coming to our shop. If you are having people, actually come to the business to pick up and drop off. So like providing, like being proactive as business owners, being proactive about telling people how you're going to handle their business, their exchange, being forthcoming, more communication, more discussion about how this is going to go, the better, and the more reassuring you are to that customer. A lot of times, we don't want to bother people. We don't want to be too proud. Chris's messaging around leadership is really, really critical right now. People need leadership. They're reassured by that leadership. And when you show them that you have things under control, then they're reassured and more likely to do business with you.
By the way, Chris, I am a big fan of John Maxwell too. And in 1998, when I read my first John Maxwell book, Developing the Leader Within You, in the first page in the first paragraph, John Maxwell said something I never forgot: leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And that really hit me.
If you're not reading the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, if that is not your Bible for leadership, if that is not on your panel, then you've absolutely messed out. Because what happened is we just lifted our lid. And the other thing I want to talk about is influence, right? Carmen, he says that influence, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. How did you treat your people? Let's think about that. And the way you influence me is by showing you care about me.
Yeah.
If you care about me, then I'm going to allow you to influence my life because I believe you're leading them in the right direction. So once again, these last 2 months, ask yourself as a leader, were you caring about your people? Because if you were, then they're going to allow you to influence them that much more. I know a lot of shop owners are like, I don't understand. I laid off one guy, I fired one guy, I cut hours on everybody else, and everybody's pissed off. I don't know. I don't know why they would be upset. Sure. You got to understand where they're coming from. They've lost their livelihoods, and everybody else is now in fear that they're going to lose theirs as well. And sometimes you get in those situations, but being completely honest and communicative, I think, helps in those situations.
I hear you. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Hey, now more than ever, you're focused on bringing cars through your bays safely and efficiently. ShopWare's shop management system offers a completely contactless workflow. Your customers can review, approve, and even pay for the repairs right from their smartphone. 123. Request a demo at getshopware.com. Thank you, Sheri and the team at shopware.com. Scott, you mentioned about the influence that we see on TV. And here's a couple of ads that I've seen that we should think about in our industry. 90 days, no payments, and then 84 payments. I mean, this whole credit-worthy thing, and you're sitting there saying 84 months to, my car will be crap in 3 years and I'm still paying for it for another 4. And I think about the credit thing. So many shop owners have credit vehicles that they can use. And I also believe that there's money available because people haven't been spending a lot. And in a couple of weeks, I'm doing a show on the social media slant on as we open up and what are the new things we need to be saying in social media. But you're saying, hey, what are people doing and how can I bring it to my business? I think that was your point.
Yeah, exactly.
And this whole credit thing, I think, is critical for growing once we come up and out.
Yep, exactly. I'd like to go back and talk a little bit about what Chris was talking about how you treat your client or your employees or your leading. The leadership is huge. And I'll tell you, we're going through some pretty crappy times right now, right? And so if you've got a negative attitudinal state inside of your organization, it's just going to continue to spiral downhill. So managing those expectations or managing those attitudes are crucial. And you've got to show your compassion. I mean, you've got to demonstrate compassion. You should have compassion and help these people, because we're all in this together. I mean, we rely on our technicians families rely on them. I mean, we're all extended families here. So we need to, and this also helps us with the creativity part. Hey, start putting some of these things out on the table for the technicians and say, hey guys, here's a challenge we've got. What do you guys think? And then we start getting buy-in from those guys, and now it becomes a big team effort. And it can be really life-changing to see that kind of activity come to fruition.
It's an opportunity for them to rise to the challenge too. Don't come with problems, come with solutions. What is it that you're facing, and what do you suggest? That's been a really key component for me in terms of leading my businesses, is that, I'm a doer. I'm an only child. I always think I'm right. And so I like to just rush in there and take it. And the problem is that takes away the opportunity for the other person to solve the problem. And so really being able to stop and challenge the other person, which is, okay, what's not working? And then what are you doing about it? So it's always, those two questions always have to come together. And then that helps that person realize, okay, yeah, I have an impact. I'm a part of this equation. Like, I need to participate. So it's inspiring, it's aspirational for them. And it's that makes their job more rewarding.
Yeah. And let me rephrase. So Carm, we all had to potentially lay people off. And so we all had to go through this. It's how you approached it. Were you honest with your team? Were you telling them, hey, we're running out of money. We didn't save money for a rainy day. Like, what was the transparency between you and them? And then realizing that you can be empathetic when you lay somebody off. You can, and you could say, look, we laid off Joe, but as soon as we get money, we're going to bring him back. Like, we all had to go through it. It's how you did it. And if you were surprised that your people were shocked that you were laying them off and cutting their hours, if that shocked you, that they acted that way, then maybe you're not connected or as connected as you should be with your people. And that's okay. I think great leaders, they connect. Another John Maxwell book. I'm on a John Maxwell kick lately, if you can tell. But, everybody communicates, few people connect. What does it take to connect? And that means I care. And it hurts to care, because guess what happens when you care? You become vulnerable. Well, the last 2 months, I believe a lot of us were very vulnerable, very truthful. And a lot of us are going to be stronger for it, because the people that we get to lead said, wow, I can rely on this person to be transparent. I can rely on this person to do the right thing. They were community. They were transparent. That's a lot of us are going to come out and we're going to have employees for life if we want. I'm not saying that, employee for life never happens, but I think we come out we come out stronger if we made those right decisions.
Adapt or die. And the evangelist, Cloutier here on leadership, I think has kind of stitched this whole thing together. If you're going to reinvent yourself, you need to learn to be a better leader. I think that's a big, strong message here. Sheri, thank God for associations.
Yes. They've definitely become a resource, and really, for some shops that don't go out and get involved in the community, that don't engage with others, this is their one connection to see within their local area and then beyond what's really happening, getting those resources, getting the information, and again, knowing that they're not in this industry by themselves. And it's impossible to come up with all these creative ideas. And so you can really get inspired, and this industry is okay. You're not necessarily going to steal somebody else's idea. Everybody's willing to share and help. And that community within the associations really provides a great resource for shop owners.
Go.
I just have to make this comment. I just wrote, of course. I mean, I'm going to look, I just wrote a blog about it. Not that it's important, but it's don't be an island. Right. And I think that it's important that we realize as shop owners, like we can be islands, we're independent. Yeah, we did this ourselves. That's fine. You can argue that. But I think to Sheri's point, you should make it a point this year to go to a conference, at least one, because you have the opportunity. It really stinks when you don't have the opportunity. You can't go to one right now, even if you wanted to. There's 30, 40 different conferences. Sheri's is one of the best, no question. Like, this is something you should do. Like Scott said, like Caroline said, like, we're a community. We should act as a community. And if you were going through these last couple months without any network, I feel sorry for you, because I leveraged my network daily. Sometimes I was calling shop owners and saying, hey, what's going on with your shop? Oh, I'm having this problem here. Don't be an island. Leverage these conferences, leverage your 20 groups. Like, if anything comes out of that, that should be just a key piece you pull away from this. Don't be an island.
What an interesting point is. Go ahead, Scott.
100%, Chris. You're right on the money. And really, from Sheri's perspective, running a trade association gives her great perspective on what in the heck is happening. Boots on the ground. That eclectic knowledge and information is really valuable. And so the shops out there that don't belong to a local trade association, we've got one here in California, the Automotive Service Councils. If you're not involved with a trade association, you are doing yourself, your customers, your employees, everybody a disservice, because you've got to be connected to a group. It's vital.
There's no one person that has all the answers, and there's nothing wrong with asking questions, asking for help, and that's exactly what that community is for. We're in it together.
To Chris's point about maybe you need to wake up and realize you need to go to a meeting as part of the adapt or die concept, the new normal, Chris, is so many of the successful people today are that way because they attended conferences and built their network. So they replace that with their Zoom meetings and their networks and their 20 groups and stuff. And maybe that's the big eye opener for the ones that been outliers and, sitting on the side, realizing, how do I get this and how do I start? Well, we've been telling you for years. And so, now it's time. We'll look at,
Harm, I'm tired of seeing these same faces at every conference. I want to see new ones.
Of course.
I love y'all's faces, but I see the same people over and over. I want to see new people. This is your chance.
Yeah, I want to meet new people.
Yeah, and I think Sheri said she had some pretty good new attendance for this year's vision, right?
Yeah,
it was great. I saw a lot of new faces.
We had some great first-time attendees, great numbers, another record-setting year for first-time attendees. So even with everything that was going on, the starting and leading up to this, but yeah, it's.
Well, look at, I want to give each of you a minute, 2-minute summary. I'll start with Scott. We'll go to Carolyn, Chris, and then we'll have Sheri hit cleanup. And thank you all so much for being here. I'll say goodbye to you as I introduce each of you. Thank you, Scott, for being here from Connie and Dix and the CEO of Diagnostic Network. Any final words?
The only final word is continually adapt, right? You're always looking for that room for improvement. I mean, I analyze everything I do every day, and I probably drive myself nuts sometimes, but I look and go, man, I could have done that better. And that goes for everything you do, right? I mean, you're working on a car, or you work through a technical problem. You go, what could have I done to be a little more efficient at doing that? And the same thing with a business owner. He can look at his actions. He can say, well, okay, that didn't work. Hey, that's fine. Take ownership. Say, hey, this is the way that we're going to try this again. And extend that offer out to your workforce. See what ideas that they can bring to the table, and then get them to buy in. So that's it. But thanks for having me on this esteemed panel here. It's been great. Thank you.
Honored to have you here. And thanks very much for being here. I'm a tweaker like you, Scott. At the end of every day is, what could I have done better? And what should I stop doing? I get that. I totally get this. Carolyn, I'll give you your last word, from Luscious Garage in San Francisco and the CEO of ShopWare.
Carm, thanks for the opportunity to be here. It's always a pleasure, and it's an honor to be part of this panel, this amazing company. I was thinking about, in closing, the concept of marginal gains, So if you Google search marginal gains, you can see sort of what is the compounding effect of making one small change every single day. And doing nothing, like Chris said, is still doing something. It's doing nothing. And so if you're not improving, the question is you're not improving, you're declining. So that can feel overwhelming. You can be like, oh my God, there's so much to do. And the reason I bring this up is because I want to reassure everyone who's listening that you're doing something amazing, right? You're running a business, you're fixing cars, you're taking care of people, you're taking care of your employees, you're taking care of your customers. And you're probably doing it all really, really well. The questions are, what are the things that you want to improve? What are the things that you could be doing better? And so don't beat yourself up. You need to, give yourself a break at the end of the day and give yourself the credit for all the hard work that you're doing and that you're doing really well. And then obviously the sort of like mental exfoliation to think like, okay, well, where are the habits that I'm stuck and where do I need to change? And if you change just a little bit every single day, the outcome is tremendous. You'll have incredible improvement to your life, to your business, to your bank account. And not to feel overwhelmed by that, but to just commit yourself to thinking about what's that small change that I want to make every single day. And that's ultimately, not only the quote unquote adapt or die, don't go out of business, but you're going to be able to thrive and grow.
Very, very good message. Incremental growth. Chris Cloutier, Golden Rule Auto Care, Dallas, Texas, CEO of Autotex.me. Give me your final words, Mr. Leadership Guy.
Absolutely. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I like this. Barry Barrett, he said, there will always be change. The qualifying question is, will you change or will somebody make the decision for you to change? He's dead on. That is a great question. Are you changing your business or is somebody forcing you to change? I don't ever want to be reactive. I always said, God, I hate that we're aftermarket independent. Why can't we be pro market? Aftermarket means we're after. It means we're second. It means that's horrible. It's in our name. I don't want, and I said this, we should start a movement called the pro market, not the aftermarket. So anybody in, we can do that. I think you should evaluate a couple things. One, your leadership skills. And the reason why I say leadership, Carm, is what I realize is you can have the greatest technology in the world, but if you don't have the people that can follow your processes and implement the technology, then it doesn't matter. Technology can't cover up bad employees and bad leadership. It can't. So I think the focus has to be on leadership and where you're going to take that ship and where you're going to steer it into. Even if it's the rocks, if you have the right crew, they can throw some boards on there. They can fix that boat and they can get it sailing right back out to the sea again. And then my last comment is, I love this song from Cinderella. You don't know what you got till it's gone. I'm a song quoter. I'm just a quoter today.
Well, you're a rock star anyway.
I am in my rock star studio. Don't know what you got till it's gone. Once again, I miss going to conferences. And I'm going to give a shout out to Sheri because her conference is fantastic. If you pick one, pick Vision, it's great. It's just a good conference, but pick one. If it's in your backyard, there's so many conferences. Pick one, go. Because right now you can't. And doesn't it suck when you don't have a choice? So if you get that choice and when you get that choice again, make it a point to go start connecting with shop owners, learn, listen, ask questions. It's okay. We don't know everything. Be the instrument of change. Don't let change be the instrument of you. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. As a side note here, knowing that Chris plays and sings, and he's in a rock band. All right, here we go. So here's a little side story. Just bear with me for 1 minute. It was last year at ASTE, right, Chris? We saw the lone guitarist, playing the pre-party that night, and I turned to him and I said, why can't we have a Remarkable Results radio band? And so I reached out to everyone, and Chris and I think Andy Bizub, bass, and a couple of drummers that we have, and we were planning on that for this fall. And of course, if Bob pulls it off, and I believe he will, and I think it's close, we aren't going to have that many people anyway, and maybe the pre-party, yes or no. And so I was so disappointed, but who knows? the RRR ban, that we still may pull it off. I don't know. Maybe if not, we could do it. We could do it at Vision. Who knows?
Yeah, you could do a Zoom concert. That's the thing now.
Well,
to have,
yeah. Well, we're touchy
Your
people.
debut.
We want to be live.
Yes, yes.
We need the people drinking at the bar is what we need. Let's just be clear.
Exactly right.
Yes, yes.
So thank you for reminding me of that, Chris. And Sheri Hamilton, Executive Director, Midwest Auto Care Alliance. You've the last word.
Yes. Well, gosh, how do you follow up a lot of great closing statements? I think our industry should be proud. We've achieved a lot, but we have a long way to go. And this is an opportunity for us to take everything that we've gone through, learn from it, take notes, reflect back on what you've done. This may not be the last time we go through this. Learn from this, adapt, and you will come out better and stronger with your people behind you if you take proper leadership, and all together you will be better and stronger.
Wow. Thank you all so much. Some of the greatest, wisest words I've heard all year. Thanks for being here. Have a great weekend. We'll check this thing out on Facebook, watch for it on my YouTube channel and all that neat stuff. So thanks for helping us get this thing into the recording books. Carolyn.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.
Chris,
Everybody.
Sheri.
Bye-bye.
Great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
See ya.